Good morning. Today is Tuesday, July the 7th of 2020. We are currently living in times that seem so strange to us. The future is very uncertain. The economy is unstable. We are constantly on edge about the coronavirus and whether we will get sick or a loved one will get sick. We wonder if the school systems are going to reopen in the fall. Our church services are a bit strange as our fellowship seems a bit awkward and distant, and we wonder how long we will have to wear masks, when we will be able to shake someone's hand again or even hug another person. And then on top of all of that, our very nation is in absolute turmoil. Injustice is all around us. We are haunted by the sins of our past. Protests are happening, racial tensions, arguments over gender identity, anger and frustration and riots and demonstrations. It seems like the United States is literally crumbling all around us. And it is not just on the news, but it is in our own backyards. And we watch the news and we don't know who we can trust anymore about anything. We can't help but wonder, what is really going on? What is the truth on all of these matters? So many of us are tired of everything or of everybody giving their opinions. We want the truth. We feel the weight of all the political tensions. We see all the different opinions given all over social media. There are troubles all around us. Some of us are just plain confused. Many of us are just frustrated. We fear about what the future might hold. We worry about our livelihood. We are anxious about tomorrow. And we wonder even if persecution might increase within the church itself. But with all the chaos and the uneasiness and trials and troubles and injustices, the heated arguments and the worries about what the future might hold, let us not forget history is absolutely chock full of troubling times. And there have been many times throughout the history of the world that have been hundreds of times worse than what we are currently experiencing. Could you imagine living in 1918 through 19 when the Spanish flu wiped out 50 million people right after the time of World War I? Could you imagine living in Europe during the Black Plague that wiped out 30 to 60% of the European population? Could you imagine living during the many wars that have happened just in our own nation, such as the Revolutionary War or the Civil War, where you would have known many, many people killed and families broken apart and divided? Could you imagine living through the times of World War II? And the many people that were killed and the evils that were on the world, the millions that were murdered and genocide? Could you imagine living in times of Roman oppression, where they would tax you so much that you could just barely scrape by to feed your family while the Romans lived in wealth and luxury? Could you imagine living in places or times where you were being hunted down simply because you were a Christian? And not to mention the hundreds and even thousands and thousands of horrific times and seasons on this earth throughout history where people have endured sickness and plagues and social injustices and genocides and famines and persecutions and hardships and absolutely horrific treatments. This world is full of suffering and trouble and hardship. And right now, even as we speak, there are many, many people in this world right now who are enduring nightmare situations, while many of us are only worried about what might come. Many people are already living some of our worst nightmares right now in this world. All of this is to say, we live in a world full of trouble. And it should not shock us. It should not surprise us. There will never be peace in this world as we know it. There will always be corruption, injustice, disease, sickness, troubles, trials, and persecutions. Always. The scriptures tell us that this is going to be the case. This is what the Bible tells us. Jesus even told his disciples in John 16:33. He says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. You know, I wonder for us who belong to the American church in this day and age, do we truly believe that Jesus has overcome the world? Why are we so worried? Why are we so anxious about what the future may or may not hold? Why are we so worried about the possibility of persecution? Why are we so worried that our nation might crumble beneath our feet? Why are we worried that there may not be that our pantries may not be full of food? Why are we so concerned about storing up ammo as if all we need is Jesus plus bullets? Did Jesus not tell Peter to put away his sword? Why are we at times so adamant to try and paint a flawless and magnificent picture of our past, as if our forefathers were absolutely innocent and our ancestors meant well, and we foolishly deny the sins of the past? Why are we so quick to try and defend ourselves, as if our motives are always pure, that our opinions are truly righteous, and that we carry no biases in our own views? This world is full of corruption, and much of that corruption is in us, personally as well, all of us. But you know, Jesus has said, I have overcome the world. If we are in Christ, that means that Jesus Christ has overcome in us as well. And therefore, it is so crucial to get our eyes off of the world. Let us get our eyes off of the craziness and the worries of the world. Church, if our eyes were on Jesus as they should be, the world would look at us as the church and they would see a true and real difference. They would see a people who are not fearful of a virus, but whose hope is in the one who has overcome the virus. They would see in us a people who are not focused on skin color, but instead focused on loving others selflessly and reaching others with the gospel of Christ. If our focus was on Christ, we would not focus so much on our own rights. We would not attempt to whitewash our past. We would not concern ourselves so much over the immediate safeties and comforts of the present. We would not worry about the security of our futures in this world. When all of our focus is on Jesus Christ, something begins to take place within us as we become so full of joy, even in the midst of such troubling times. Why? Because Jesus has overcome this world. All of this, all the craziness, all of the trouble, Jesus has already overcome it. He has already won. There is victory in Jesus, victory over every injustice, victory over every sickness, victory over ourselves, victory over death itself, victory in Christ. If we should do anything in this day, it should be just this, to fix our eyes on Jesus. Let us get our eyes on Jesus. He truly is the answer, and He always has been. The only answer. Jesus is the victory. Jesus is the answer. And so let us turn to Christ, let us look to Christ, and let us point others to Christ, giving our all to Christ. For Jesus has truly said, take heart, I have overcome the world.